is this World Series a sign of a problem because we do have two massive, large revenue organizations facing off?
I'm actually going to take a different turn. I think it's part of a solution because the biggest complaint that I felt like was out there was the postseason format and the bye. And we just eliminated that with one postseason, right? I mean, we just had the top two seeds meeting up. So that's part of the equation here. We just got rid of that complaint. Hey, it's not an advantage if you get a bye out of the first round. Really? Because the Astros proved in the past that they were able to overcome that. At the same time this year, the Astros ran into a Tigers team that was hot and had Tarek Skubal, and the Guardians and the Yankees didn't have to deal with the Tigers in a short series like that. So think about the equation there where Skubal can win you one game on his own, and he kind of did that against Houston. So I think you wipe that out. And I actually think overall, JJ, we're getting rid of a lot of complaints in general because it's a very easy comeback to say, oh, really? When was the last Dodgers-Yankees World Series? And then we talk about how it was little JJ watching in the early 1980s. So I think that we've actually kind of gotten to a point where we have so much variance and parity that we also will have heavyweights sometimes match up. But what are the chances that the Yankees and Dodgers match up again next year, or that we have these consistent dynasties that evolve in our sport? We haven't had back-to-back champs since the Yankees dynasty teams from a quarter century ago. And I think a lot of that has to do with a World Series hangover, and which has to do with pitching in my mind. I just think the chances of having a healthy staff from one year to the next and consistency from that staff alone puts you in a bad spot. So I think it's a good thing, JJ. I think we're actually in a perfect place right now. If we had too many of these wildcard teams consistently making it past the teams that earned it more with wins in the regular season, I felt like that complaint was piling up much larger than the complaints of Yankees Dodgers because it's just an easy comeback right now. Oh, really? When was the last time the Yankees won, right? Like, when was the last time the Dodgers won in a full season? When was the last time we had the top two seeds meeting up? I think it was 2013 was the math so far. So already we're talking about a time over a decade ago. So I actually think we're in a perfect place the way this all lines up. And yes, it doesn't hurt that the league and TV execs and everyone else is excited about this, because the last place I'll go here, and Geoff, I'll kick it to you, is the fact that our sport, baseball, suffers a lot more from a lack of star power at times. And when I say star power, I mean the top 5 players in our sport, often not necessarily popping up in October when the game's at its largest stage. Shohei Ohtani is a legend. He's a unicorn. We've never seen anything like him in this era of baseball. He had not played a single postseason game. Yeah. And before him, who was the best player in our sport? Mike Trout. He had played in one series. What was it? His rookie or second year, very early on in his career. That crushes us. One hit, right? And what was it? 3 games? It was or 4 games, whatever it was.
The Royals series and the Royals wild card
2014. Series. So to me, Geoff, that crushes our sport compared to the NBA. I mean, you never will have a case where you have like the LeBron of the NBA just not playing in the playoffs for a 10-year span. So thank goodness now we have Shohei Ohtani in a better position where the world can watch him. And when I say the world, I mean 13 million plus people watching in Japan, more than the ratings we're putting up in the USA. So I think, I don't want to say we needed this, but if we never have our stars playing at the largest stage, then we're doing a disservice to fans.
Yeah, I think absolutely. That's the biggest thing. As someone who's somewhat impartial in all this, as not really a huge, fan or, a hater of either team, that was what I took away. It was like, this is awesome. Soto obviously has already been to a World Series. He gets to do that again, as young as he is, and is really tracking with some of the historic superstars of the sport in terms of regular season success, but also playoff success. I think, getting Ohtani into the World Series was like, as a young kid watching basketball and Jordan was coming up, when he finally sort of made that jump and got to an NBA Finals. I think that's kind of what it's on par with, because he's that big of a star. He's transcendent. He's somebody that, people who don't know anything about baseball just are casually aware of sports. They know who Shohei Ohtani is, and it's a story that they're going to follow. And obviously the things that, he can do in a baseball field that, he's not even pitching right now. And sounds like he's not going to pitch in the World Series. But at the same time, just, the first inning of that first game, we're going to see legitimate star power in Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, etc. And they're also big brands, big market teams with big fan bases, not only, domestically, but abroad as well. So I think this is in some ways sort of a dream matchup, just from the standpoint of, if this is a good series and these teams play up to their ability, it's one that I think, we're going to harken back to and look back on, for decades. And we haven't really had that sort of a matchup with star power, big markets, some history with the two teams, as I think they've played a dozen times or whatever, but really not in, my lifetime. I think I was born in 1982, so I haven't even really lived through one of these series in the sense that I can remember. And, I'm 40 something years old with kids. So I think it's good for the game. I think it's good just for the promotion of the World Series, the players, and these are the right guys to have there, especially, when you're looking at three of the four best players, from the season this year.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Scott. Like, the NBA does have an advantage when it comes to this, because LeBron James by himself pretty much guaranteed that whatever team LeBron James chose to be on that year was probably going to be in the NBA Finals. It was from 2007 to 2020. He went 10 times. You had Cleveland versus Golden State, I think, 5 years in a row, I think it was at one point. In that Tom Brady's going to play in the Super Bowl most years if Tom Brady's around. If it's not, Peyton Manning's probably there. You have these sports where the stars kind of drive it much more than they do in baseball. That's where I'm going to be really interested to see this. Obviously, we need this. If the series goes 6 or 7 games, because ratings grow as it gets further in. If you get to a do or die in game 7, that's going to do a lot better than a game sweeps. But if that happens, I would not be surprised at all. I would expect it, actually, that you're going to see the World Series outdraw the NBA Finals this year, which isn't as crazy as a lot of people may think. Like, I think that there's this perception nowadays that the NBA Finals ratings sit here and then the World Series are here. And it's kind of much more closely packed than that. Now, the NBA Finals in recent years have been a little bit higher, but if you go back 2020, which was the weird COVID year, admittedly, but 2020 to 2023, 2020, MLB had better ratings for World Series. 21, World Series had better ratings. 22, 23, the NBA's had better ratings. We'll see. The NBA had a good matchup. They had the Celtics winning it all. That's a big brand in the NBA. But I do think Yankees-Dodgers, we saw the last time that the Yankees were in the World Series, which was quite a while ago now, but they drew 5 million more fans, viewers, in that year than were the year before or the year after that. Now, I don't expect 5 million more nowadays, because TV ratings across the board for everything other than football have gone down a lot, because there's Netflix and TikTok and social media and everything else you want to talk about. But I do think that you're going to see a bump, because there are a lot of Yankees fans out there, and there are a lot of fans out there who will just tune in to root against the Yankees. The Dodgers have a large fan base. The Dodgers also have a large group of Giants fans and Padres fans and all that will tune in to hold their nose, root for the Yankees, and root against the Dodgers. So there's a lot of interest here. And I do think that this kind of adds all together to make this a really, not just a fascinating World Series, but a really important one. Because let's be honest, if the World Series this year does not outdraw the NBA Finals, it is kind of a clear sign that the NBA Finals now are on a different level ratings-wise. Why should you care about that as a fan? Because these things do play a part when TV contracts and all these things that do affect you as a fan. So I do think it'll be very interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's a great call. Right. I mean, there's more business that comes out of coverage of a sport too. So, I mean, we exist, Baseball America, Foul Territory, right, for a reason, because there are enough eyeballs, there's enough of an audience for us to have discussions like this.